am on my way to work, and I know I haven't vlogged in a while. There has been a lot of stuff going on, mostly between school and all that. I've been really tired and really kind of busy trying to get everything together. And I apologize, this is like in the dark thing again, because as I said, I'm on my way to work, so there's no light really. That's kind of a cool background, seeing the light in the fog through the window. But anyways, so the beginning of this week, it was really kind of crappy. Tuesday, I got done with my class. I had a lot of missed calls from my mom, 21 text messages from my mom and my sister. Had no idea what was going on. Here to find out. There was some stuff going on with my dad. End result, he had fallen, hit his head, was bleeding like uncontrollably. He's on blood thinners for his previous, pre-existing medical problems. So he's on the Plavix and an aspirin regimen. Well, what happened was, he fell, hit his head, he was bleeding. I guess at one point he was unconscious. Ambulance, were on their way to come pick him up. I hurry up, called into work, told him I could not come, because obviously with my dad's health issues and all that stuff, I wasn't going to take a chance of something happening to my dad and me being at work, because I'm sorry, nothing is more important than family. And I would hate myself every day if I chose to go to work and found out my dad laid there and died. And maybe that sounds traumatic. I don't know. But it's my dad. So, if that bothered anyone, screw them. So, that happened when I had got to my mom. It turns out, he was flipping out on her, all this stuff. So, when we got to the hospital, I was the only person to go back into the emergency room with him. They had stopped the bleeding, took him down for a CT scan, and when they got done with that, they brought him back, and the whole time I was there in the room with him, he was completely confused, it was horrible, but, so, eventually the doctor came in, a really nice guy. He came in and told us that my father was actually experiencing, his brain was bleeding. I guess, obviously, that's something you could die from. Sorry, my mom just texted me. I don't know if you heard that or not. She texted me regarding my good news that I have to share about today's vlog and why I'm going to make sure I vlog every day. No matter if it's just like this bullshit. I don't care if it's fancy. I don't care whatever. I need to document all this. And I cannot miss a day. But anyways, we'll go back to the first part. And then I'll tell you it's the last part. So my dad had a brain bleed. And they wanted to transfer him to a hospital that had a neurosurgeon on staff. That way, if need be for surgery, he was right there. And they didn't have to... worry about him bleeding out and dying. So they transferred him over to Forbes Hospital, and the next morning, it was 3 o'clock in the morning when they transferred him over. The next morning, we got back to the hospital. They had done the second TC scan, and they said that the bleeding wasn't as bad as they had anticipated. It actually, I guess stopped. I don't know. And they said that all they wanted to do was they actually, because my dad's issues is with his heart. Unfortunately, this year's been really hard for him. Starting back in March, there was this whole thing. He has a history of heart problems anyways. The man's had a couple heart attacks, but back in March, there was this whole thing that happened, and I don't have the time of day to go into all the details because it's very complex. But long story short, my dad is left with less than 20% of a functioning heart. He has a pacemaker, defibrillator, and shortly after having to get this part, he was actually facing a heart transplant, but they were able to get everything settled with a pacemaker, defibrillator, But in the process of getting that in, they had to shock him 17 times, and then 2 months later he had to go back for another procedure because the arteries and veins in his legs were blocked 95% and above. So he had to go into emergency surgery for that. And apparently during that procedure they had some also life-threatening events happen. So my dad has not been in good shape, and this is something, you know, especially why I don't want to take a risk if something does happen to him. But because of his health issues, when they transported him, not only because of his health issues, but because his brain was bleeding, he was sent straight to, it wasn't the intensive care, but it was like a super high risk, very guarded kind of thing. So by the end of the day, they were able to transfer him upstairs to a less intense unit. They said that, you know, they're going to do another CT scan. They want to check with physical therapy and occupational therapy to make sure he had all his faculties, and, you know, he wasn't affected in a physical or mental way from his injuries. And as it happened, the next evening, they ended up releasing him home. He has to go back like in a week to get another CT scan because he cannot not take his blood thinners. He has to take those. So they're going to take him back for another CT scan, make sure nothing got jarred loose and nothing's bleeding again or anything. And I think maybe there's going to be 2 more since he's gone home. I'm not sure. But they're going to keep an eye on that, even though he was sent home. So that was one heck of a day. So let's say before that, the one weekend I was off too, Ron and I went to go see the Storks movie, which I know that I made a vlog about that, you know, how sad it was and all that. We were super depressed. Well, so Friday was off, you know, I was scheduled to start my period on Saturday. We were completely like disappointed because it wasn't happening, and we decided that we're going to take a break. We're not going to try anything until after Christmas because mentally, emotionally, you know, anyone who has wanted to try and have a baby and it hasn't just been an accident, and they weren't lucky enough to get pregnant, like, you know, the first time, I think anyone can relate to the emotional toll it takes on you, especially if it's a prolonged experience to try month after month to have a baby and nothing succeed. So we just kind of gave up. We decided, you know, not gave up altogether, but we were going to take a break. So Saturday rolled around, and I've been doing the BBT charting. So Saturday morning rolled around, which was this morning, and I take my temperature, and it's 98.1. Now, anyone who knows anything about BBT, when your period shows up that day, your temperature is supposed to drop. Now, I have started my period above my cover line, but it's only been like 0.2 degrees above my cover line. And typically by now, my temperature's already started a slow descent to my cover line. And 98.1 is super high for me. My cover line is usually around like 96.4 to 96.6. It rarely ever goes above that. So for me to have temperatures that were, you know, I think there's twice, maybe 3 times that it peaked into the 80s. But for me to be having temperatures that were so high, you know, it's completely weird. But I didn't expect anything from it. You know, I didn't feel pregnant, didn't feel like, you know, whatever. So I'm ashamed to say, actually, we went Friday night. We took my parents to dinner, and I absolutely did not think I was pregnant. I had a drink, and, you know, that was whatever. I mean, it was just a drink. It's not like I went and got drunk. But so Saturday when I woke up and my temperature didn't drop, I was, you know, surprised. But my period has been all crazy since I've been working midnights. It's been getting longer. It's just not my normal 28 days. Set your watch by it. So I went ahead and I told Ron, I was like, you know, my stomach's been feeling weird. I feel like I have to poop all the time. But I don't actually have to poop, it's just that full filling. I was like, you know, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to get some Dopalax, you know, take some poop medicine, clear myself out, feel all better. But my true intentions were I wanted to sneak off and buy a pregnancy test without, like, making him upset. not mad upset, but, you know, if it were to come back negative upset. So I went off to the Dollar Tree, got myself a $1 pregnancy test, and got him some potato chips that he asked for. And on the way home, I sneezed like 7 times. And not to be gross, but at the end of those 7 sneezes, I seriously felt like I started my period right then and there. It felt like I sneezed out a gush of, well, it was rough. So I was set on the idea that that's what had happened. Sorry, I want to stop and get a sandwich, but it's so foggy and I couldn't see. I missed where I was supposed to turn at, and I don't know if you can even hear right now over my defrosters blowing. It's super foggy out. I guess I'm in the middle of the road too. Oh well. I can't see anything. I think there's a road here. Here it is. Wow. I'll turn this around and show you guys. Look how bad that is. It's really ridiculous. So anyways, yeah. I'm gonna park here at the end. Get my car straightened out. It's crooked as hell. Okay. Like a new driver. Okay. So, yeah, anyways. So I felt like I totally started my period, so I was really disappointed. I was so, like, upset by it that I didn't even want to go home and take the pregnancy test. I just wanted to throw it out and just, you know, give up. Well, I went to take the test, you know, I peed in the cup, and I got the little eyedropper, put my 3 drops in, and normally I would stare at it like a hawk. But this time I'm just like, I knew it was going to be negative, so I didn't even bother. And, so I started, like, you know, to clean the cup, clean up the bathroom, all that stuff. And then, like, it wasn't even 30 seconds. I decided, I was like, I looked down and I seen this very faint line. And at first it almost looked like an evaporation line, which is impossible because it had been less than 30 seconds. So then I started watching it, and that white line turned pink. And the more I watched it, it got darker and darker and darker and darker. And I started to cry like a baby, like snot running out of my nose and everything. I was completely crying. And so I went to my bedroom and I hid the test on my pillow because I heard my husband coming. And I'm laying on the bed crying, and he walks in and he's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Well, I started my period, you know, because we had talked before and he wanted to know, like, as a surprise." I told him, I was like, "You know, I'm sorry, I'm crying. I don't mean to be upset, but, you know, this is what it was." And we planned to go see a movie, so we went to go get in his car and leave. And I said, I was like, "You know, would you still want to know right away, or would you want to be surprised?" And he said he would just rather know. So I got out of the car, made him follow me up to the bedroom, and it was a positive. So, yeah. It was positive. We're going to have a baby. So that's exciting, because we definitely thought we weren't going to be able to have a baby. Not ever, but we were feeling super hopeless. But we're going to have a baby. I'm pregnant. As of today, October 1st, 2016, I am 3 weeks and 5 days pregnant. I have a ball of a booger inside of me growing. And that's so cool. We're really excited. We told his parents, my parents, and pretty much everyone, and then posted on Facebook, and we're really excited. So I want to make a goal of, you know, at least trying to, even if it's just like this, record what's going on, because I want to remember this. I think it'd be pretty cool, like, if one day our kid could come back and look at it, you know. I don't know if they'd really be interested in that, but just in case it were, we could show it to them. But so that's that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go grab a sandwich before I have to go into work, and we'll pick up tomorrow.